Okay. All right, chat. This is I'm starting like one. My bad. Okay. I'm starting like 1 or so minute early here because I just hooked up this thing called a Restream that is supposed to allow us to also live stream on Twitter. I don't know if it's working. I don't know if the software is actually connected and working or not. But let me check Twitter really quickly and see. If you're watching on the replay, feel free to just skip ahead past this. But I'm trying to see if it got set up correctly, if it worked. Does it work? It does work. Let's go. Okay, so we are live on Twitter for the first time. There's the announcement. But all right, we'll get started here a minute or so early, I suppose. Tonight on the Vince Dao Show, we got to talk about the overturning, obviously, of affirmative action. That is the big story of the day. Also, Candace Owens goes after DeSantis. And to be honest, I kind of agree with her assessment there. And Zelensky has met with Greta Thunberg, because that's exactly what I'm sure Ukraine and the New World Order needed at the moment. That's all tonight on the Vince Dao Show. Stay tuned, everyone. We are live tonight from the great state of Florida in the third world republic known as the United States. Welcome everyone to the Vince Dao Show. It is June 29th, the year of our Lord 2023, which of course means that Pride Month is almost over. But I am your host, Vince Dao. We got quite a show for you tonight. Of course, the big news of the day, the overturning of affirmative action. More specifically, we already talked about it in a video today. So I want to react more specifically to Biden's speech about affirmative action. Absolutely horrendous. Also, my liberal doppelganger, Victor Xi, okay? He's not happy, as you can imagine. We're going to explain today why he's unironically a traitor to his own race, and that'll be the affirmative action stuff. Also, some Trump-DeSantis drama to cover. And again, like I said, Zelensky meeting with Greta Thunberg. So it's going to be quite a great show for you tonight. And like I said, for the first time ever, we are broadcasting this on Twitter, which I think it's working. I think it's working. That's why we started a minute early here. But all right, it's going to be a great show. But before we begin, as usual, if you do want to super chat to support the stream tonight, you got questions or comments that you want read and answered, of course, feel free to send it in via the super chats. I don't think there's a super chat option on Twitter, but for the YouTube crowd, feel free to send it in via the super chats. I will check super chats regularly throughout the night, and as usual, we do our Q&A portion at the end. All right, with that said, I have nothing else, so let's just get right into the news for tonight. And we open, of course, with the story, as everyone knows, that today the Supreme Court overturned affirmative action. And I already did a video on it. I'm not going to go too much into it. But as you know, at Harvard and UNC, there's this court case that was going on. Supreme Court says, yeah, like we've been saying for a very long time, it is actually in violation of civil rights law to discriminate against whites and Asians on the basis of their race. No surprise there. And, you know, I'm sure you guys already know how I feel about it. Like I said, I already did a video on it today. Not going to rehash all of that, but just really quickly, I will recap here, obviously, and I'm sure you all agree, this is a huge win for fairness. This is a huge blow to the anti-white and anti-Asian discrimination that was going on in our institutions. Now, there's still a lot of work to be done, which I'll talk about at the end of this segment, but this is definitely a win. Any opinion to the contrary is silly, and any attempt, frankly, to justify affirmative action in 2023, or really ever, but in 2023, is asinine, right? And we're going to get into all those arguments here in a second, and I feel like the best way to do that is simply to give you our direct reaction to what the left is saying about affirmative action, because they're absolutely melting down at the concept that Black and some Hispanic students will actually have to work hard in school and actually be qualified to get into the institutions that they apply to. I know it's a crazy concept, right? Asking a Black kid to study and go to class and you know, get good grades and work hard like everyone else. Very, very racist concept, I know. But anyways, Joe Biden today gave about a 10-minute speech in reaction to the affirmative action ruling. We are going to watch it here live and debunk it, and that'll be the first thing here on the docket. So let's just get started into that. Let's check it out. Here is Joe Biden today. As you can see, he hobbles out.
Sorry to keep you waiting a few minutes.
Late.
45 years, for 45 years, the United States Supreme Court has recognized the college's freedom to decide how to build diverse student bodies and to meet their responsibility of opening doors of opportunity for every single American. In case after case, including recently, just as a few years ago in 2016, the court has affirmed and reaffirmed this view, that colleges could use race not as a determinative factor for admission, but as one of the factors among many in deciding who to admit from a already qualified pool of applicants.
Okay, so first and foremost, let's pause right there. First of all, colleges do not have an obligation to have a diverse student body. That's asinine. That's nonsense. That does not matter. That is not relevant to any educational experience. As a matter of fact, it actively degrades it. If you choose diversity over qualifications, guess what you're going to get as a society? Broken bridges, doctors who literally murder you, all of that stuff. We understand that. But secondly here, okay, in the Harvard admissions case specifically, we talked about this in the video today. You say, oh, you know, race is not the only factor. It's just one consideration for a pool of already qualified applicants. That's literally not true, because as we showed on the screen earlier today, for Asian students applying to Harvard versus black students, a black student in the 40th academic percentile, okay, so it's basically 60% of kids out there are better than you. Okay, the 40th percentile, they were more likely to be admitted into Harvard than an Asian student in the 100th percentile. That means above the top 1%. What more needs to be said there? There's no planet on which you can justify that not simply being only a racial thing. Okay? But Vince, their essay or something. Give me a break. I don't believe it. If you want to talk about 98th versus 100th percentile, fine. You might say you're splitting hairs at that point. 40th percentile versus 100th. For white students, it was 50th percentile, right? Black students in the 50th percentile were more likely to get in than a white student in the 100th percentile. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. Okay, and frankly, this is how many of these private schools are doing affirmative action, but to pretend as if they're all qualified and this and that. They're not. That's the problem, though. Precisely, they're not. And this is notoriously true. In fact, I am sure every young person out there watching this stream right now knows at least one person who is, let's just be honest, who is black or Hispanic that had maybe not subpar, but like B, mediocre grades their whole life and got into an exceptional school, and everyone looks like, I wonder how that happened. This is not real. This is not happening. Everywhere, right, this is a case of they are lowering the bar, they are letting in unqualified students, and we know this to be true. And it's not anecdotal. We showed the evidence again on the screen. 40th percentile of black students were more likely to get into Harvard than the 100th percentile of Asians. It's pretty cut and dry there, folks, okay? It's not hard.
Today,
it's not complex at all.
Once again, walked away from decades of precedent and as the dissent has made clear. The dissent states in today's decision, quote, rolls back decades of precedent and momentous progress, end of quote. I agree with that statement from the dissent.
The dissent that provided no actual legal arguments, by the way.
And I strongly disagree with the court's decision. Because affirmative action is so misunderstood, I want to be clear, make sure everybody's clear.
It's not misunderstood.
What the law
it's not
has
misunderstood.
Been and what it has not been until today. Many people wrongly believe that affirmative action allows unqualified students,
yes,
unqualified students to be admitted
yes,
ahead of qualified
100%,
students.
This
is not how college admissions work.
Yes,
Rather,
yes it is.
Colleges set out standards for admission, and every student has to meet those standards.
That's not true.
Then and only then, after first meeting the qualifications.
The only people who do that are state schools. Yes, for some state schools, yeah, you have to have a minimum SAT, minimum GPA. But besides that, that is not true. Private institutions, yeah, you have the general percentiles, but there's no bar of admission. Harvard, there's no minimum SAT score. Just to give you an example here, I looked this up so we can be specific. The 40th percentile is between a 950 to 1000 SAT score, okay? So this means that according to what Harvard was doing, a black student with an SAT score below 1000 was more likely to get into Harvard than an Asian student with a score above, like, what's the top 1%? Probably like 1520, 1530, somewhere around there. They're both equally qualified, you know? They just had different access to opportunity or something. Give me a break. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Required by the school.
1,000 SAT score, guys. 1,000 SAT, below 1,000.
Such as race. The way
This
it works
is nonsense.
in practice is this. Colleges first establish a qualified pool of candidates based on meeting certain grade, test scores, and other criteria.
Again, not true. Test scores. Test scores. And by the way, you guys are getting rid of test scores. Have we forgotten that part? Right? There's the liberal push because the racial breakdown of SAT scores are apparently not convenient to certain social narratives. There are actually a lot of places that have already gotten rid of the SAT. There's a push to do it more and more. I think for a lot of schools, it is now optional. You don't actually have to submit an SAT score. So, there's no objective metric at all, right? And this is what they're trying to set up. But again, that's not even true. That's not even true. There's no way an Asian kid with a 970 SAT is getting into Harvard. It's not happening. But according to the data, a black student is more likely than the 1600 Lou Han fellow, you know?
Then and only then, it is from this pool of applicants, all of whom have already met the school standards, that the class is chosen after weighing a wide range of factors, among them being race. You know, I've always believed that one of the greatest threats of America, and you're tired of hearing me say it, is our diversity. But I believe that. If you have any doubt about this, just look at the United States military.
Oh yeah, the military.
In the history of the world. It's been a model of diversity. And it's not only made our nation better, stronger, but safer.
Give me a break, dude.
I believe the same is true for our schools.
Okay, let's take a look at that then. So the U.S. military became really diverse when, like, the turn of the century, the 20th century, right? 21st century, I should say. That's when they officially let women in and, all that stuff. Have we won a war in this entire century? Okay, we got embarrassed in Afghanistan. We got embarrassed in Iraq. We really have nothing to show for in the 21st century. We don't. And the peak of military achievement in this country was what? World War I, World War II? Was the military diverse back then? Not exactly. So that's a silly argument. That's a ridiculous argument. Our military is becoming more diverse, true. And not saying correlation is causation in all cases, but the more diverse our military has become, the more weak it has become. And you could say that about many institutions in this country as a whole, because they're forcing diversity. We understand that.
I've always believed that the promise of America is big enough for everyone to succeed, and that every generation of Americans, we have benefited by opening the doors of opportunity just a little bit wider to include those who've been left behind. I believe our colleges are stronger when they are racially diverse. Our nation is stronger because we are tapping into the full range of talent in this nation. I also believe that while talent, creativity, and hard work,
you're denying talent by rejecting it.
Not equal opportunity. It is not everywhere across this country.
It's ridiculous.
We cannot let this decision be the last word. On emphasis, we cannot let this decision be the last word.
It will be, Joe.
While the court can render a decision, it cannot change what America stands for. America is an idea, unique in the world, an idea of hope and opportunity, of possibilities.
Is it the idea of diversity? Is that what it is?
Of leaving no one behind. We've never fully lived up to it, but we've never walked away from it either. We will not walk away from it now. We should never allow the country to walk away from the dream upon which it was founded. That opportunity is for everyone, not just a few. We need a new path forward, a path consistent with a law that protects diversity and expands opportunity. So today I want to offer some guidance to our nation's colleges as they review their admission systems after today's decision.
All right, here we go.
Guidance that is consistent with today's decision. They should not abandon, let me say this again, they should not abandon their commitment to ensure student bodies of diverse backgrounds and experience that reflect all of America. What I propose for consideration is a new standard, where colleges take into account the adversity a student has overcome when selecting among qualified applicants. Let's be clear, under this new standard, just as was true under the earlier standard, students first have to be qualified applicants. They need the GPA and test scores to meet the school's standards.
Again, not true, but okay, let's take the adversity thing. I believe to an extent you could argue that, right? Now, I do think we go too far very often because you still have to display some minimum academic ability. Yeah, you're poor, it sucks. You know, you probably have less opportunity. We'll give you a few points on the SAT leeway, but the idea that a kid who is C student, totally unqualified, bad test scores, the idea that, well, like, how do we know if put into an actual high-level college environment he would succeed? So I still think we ought to be careful about that. But regardless, taking the adversity thing, a student has lived a hard life, therefore, you know, they should have that considered. That's not outlawed by this case. But you know what does not consider that? The system of affirmative action, right? Because affirmative action says you have a rich black kid and a poor white kid here. You know, let's say they have the same scores, same test scores, all that stuff. Liberals, all the people you're defending, Joe, think that the rich black kid who lived a way easier life and has the same grades should get in over the poor white kid. Right? So what does race have to do with adversity? Oh, but Vince, on average, black people have higher poverty rates. Okay, but aren't you judging the individual, not the race, as they apply to the school? Are you not? So it's total gaslighting. What they fundamentally want to do is, if you are black, and to a lesser degree, but it's true, if you are Hispanic, we're going to lower the bar just because of your skin color. That's all it's about. That's all it's about. And you, in many cases, like we just proved with Harvard, you're not going to be qualified, considering the 40th percentile is between a 950 to 1,000 SAT score.
Once that test is met, then adversity should be considered, including students' lack of financial means, because we know too few students of low-income families, whether in big cities or rural communities, are getting an opportunity to go to college.
What about low-income white people, Joe? What about low-income white people?
To go to college gets the same
Are only black people low-income? Is that how it works?
Kid. His whole family's gone to the most elite colleges in the country, and his path has been a lot easier. Well, the kid who faced tougher challenges has demonstrated more grit, more determination, and that should be a factor that colleges should take into account in admissions.
True. What does that have to do with race? Again, I once again ask, what does that have to do with race? Nothing. But in the words of Joe Biden, right, poor kids are just as bright as white kids. So I guess that's what he's getting at. But it's just gaslighting. It's gaslighting. I agree, like I said, to a limited extent, but I agree with that assessment. The problem is, if you're a poor Asian kid or a poor white kid, many such cases, they exist, believe it or not, you get screwed over. Why should that be the case? Because they want to, you know, give basically free handouts to black students and some Hispanic students.
Many still do.
That's what it is.
It also means examining where a student grew up and went to high school. It means understanding the particular hardships that each individual student has faced in life, including racial discrimination that individuals have faced in their own lives. The court says, quote, nothing in this opinion should be construed as prohibiting universities from considering an application's discussion of how race has affected his or her life, but be it through discrimination.
Okay, he doesn't even know what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's saying. So
because the truth is, we all know it. Discrimination still exists in America.
True. It's mainly perpetuated against white people and Asian people to some degree, but mainly white people. So just gonna point that out.
Discrimination still exists in America. Discrimination still exists in America. Today's decision does not change that. It's a simple fact. If a student had to overcome adversity on their path to education, college should recognize and value that.
It's true. You know what discrimination looks like? Discrimination looks like if you are an Asian student with a literal 1,600 SAT score applying to Harvard, or a white student with, let's say, like a 1,560 or something, you are less likely to get into Harvard than a black student with a 1,000 SAT score. That's exactly what discrimination looks like. That is the most discriminatory system I could possibly think of. It's true. I agree, Joe. Discrimination does exist in America. It just exists towards the opposite groups that you think it does.
Our nation colleges and universities should be engines of expanding opportunity through upward mobility. But today, too often, that's not the case. Statistics, one statistic, students from the top 1% of family incomes in America are 77 times more likely to get into elite college than one from the bottom 20% of family income. 77%.
What does that have to do with race?
Greater opportunity.
That has nothing to do with race.
For too many schools,
what does that have to do with race?
The system are the wealthy and the well-connected. The odds have been stacked against working people for much too long. We need a higher education system that works for everyone, from Appalachia to Atlanta and to far beyond. We can and must do better.
You're discriminating against Appalachia.
Today, I'm directing the Department of Education to analyze what practices help build more inclusive and diverse student bodies, and what practices hold that back. Practices like legacy admissions and other systems expand privilege instead of opportunity. Colleges and universities should continue their commitment to support, retain, and graduate diverse students and classes. You know, companies who are already realizing the value of diversity should not use this decision as an excuse to turn away from diversity either. We can't go backwards.
Okay.
You know, I know today's court decision is a severe disappointment to so many people, including me.
So severe disappointment to so many people finding out that Black and Hispanic people have to also work hard and do the same things that society expects of everyone else. It's horrible. It's literally the KKK is in the Supreme Court, guys. Don't you know?
But we cannot let the decision be a permanent setback for the country.
It's so ridiculous.
Door of opportunities. We need to remember that diversity is our strength.
No, it's
we
not.
have to find a way forward. We need to remember that the promised America is big enough for everyone to succeed. You know, that's the work of my administration, and I'm always going to fight for that. And I want to thank you all.
All right, so there's the Joe Biden speech. I feel like we gave a pretty adequate response to it, in my opinion. Let me really quickly, I know we got a member chat here. Member chat from Carlin says, Vince, please say hello to my grandmother, Lou. Well, hello, grandmother Lou. Greetings from the Vince Dao Show. Glad to see you here. Again, guys, if you do want to super chat the show here on YouTube or on Streamlabs, feel free to do so, as your super chats are the best way to keep this show going. But all right, let's move on now to more liberal reactions to the affirmative action ruling, okay? So we got Joe Biden out there just gaslighting, indirectly making our argument, but, you know, just like I said, totally gaslighting about it. Let's move on here. So we got my liberal doppelganger, ladies and gentlemen, Victor Shi, okay? So my liberal Vince Dao, okay, the liberal doppelganger of myself, had an absolute meltdown on Twitter today over affirmative action, of course, the very policy that would have discriminated against him when he was applying to college, being overturned. And as you can see, here he is cussing on the timeline, saying that the Supreme Court just angered an entire generation of young people and they're going to regret it. And then he's like shilling for Biden and all of this stuff. Let me say this in response, okay? The liberal reaction today to the affirmative action thing could not make me more mad. And this is just what I'm going to say. Outright, I'm going to say it. I don't care. If you are an Asian kid or a white kid, for that matter, because you guys are a part of this too, right? If you are an Asian or white kid who defends affirmative action, let me just say it. You are a race traitor. You are a legitimate traitor to your race. And I'm not saying that as a, boomerang, because, they always call me a race traitor, right? That's what they said after Vice. They said, you just want to suck up to white people, this and that. No, I actually mean that. Because you actively support policies that discriminate against yourself. And you defend them, and you defend them quite vehemently there on the timeline. Okay? And you are the people who will call me whitewashed, race traitor, or whatever it is. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. But there's Victor Shi's reaction. Want to move on here to give you a bigger picture idea of what some of the liberals here are saying. So, Ketanji Brown Jackson, we briefly covered this in a video today, but I feel like I didn't fully get into it. So we'll actually read it here. This is her dissent to the affirmative action ruling. She goes out there and says, with let them eat cake obliviousness. Okay, so as we read this, keep in mind, this is supposed to be a legal dissent, right? This is supposed to be a court ruling she's dissenting to. Notice how, as we read it, she does not cite any legal or constitutional arguments because there are none. Affirmative action in itself is in pretty blatant violation of equal protection and all that. But here, let's take a listen here. So she says, With let them eat cake obliviousness, today the majority pulls the ripcord and announces color blindness for all by legal fiat. Which, yes, what a terrible thing, right? Color blindness. But deeming race irrelevant in law does not make it so in life. And having so detached itself from this country's actual past and present experiences, the court has now been lured into interfering with the crucial work that UNC and other institutions of higher learning are doing to solve America's real-world problems. So, Ketanji, that's a ridiculous argument. It's all ridiculous. But here's what I will say. You know what? Say what you will, have your opinion. Where is the basis of this in law? Okay? She's basically just saying, well, in my opinion, it should be this way. Notice how she doesn't cite the constitutional argument. She doesn't cite law that it violates or whatever. She just says, well, you know, anecdotally, I think there's still racism in America towards black people, so that's why we need this policy. That's not a judge. That's not what a judge does, right? That's what an activist does. This is something that ought to be written in the New York Times, not written in the official records of the U.S. Supreme Court, okay? So we continue here. No one benefits from ignorance. Because is that what judges usually appeal to? You know, you guys are just ignorant. Is that something a judge is supposed to say? Not, here's the law, here's why it's correct or not incorrect. No one benefits from ignorance? Okay. Although formal race-linked barriers are gone, race still matters to the lived experiences of all Americans in innumerable ways. Okay, again, that's your opinion. Great, fine. What does that have to do with the legality in current law and current precedent? There is none. There is none. She's basically just going and writing How to Be Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi. She's writing 1619. She has crapped it out on a piece of paper, and this is her formal dissent. You know, honestly, I have to say, maybe this will get me canceled. It really does sound like something an affirmative action hire would write if they were appointed to the Supreme Court. Unironically, just saying, it's true. Okay. But anyways, blah, 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 blah. And today's ruling makes things worse, not better. The best that can be said of the majority perspective is that it proceeds ostrich-like from the hope that preventing consideration of race will end racism. Okay, so apparently you're supposed to consider race to end racism, right? That obviously makes a whole lot of sense there. So there's Ketanji Brown Jackson's argument. Again, it is complete nonsense, because even if she wants to say all these things are true, oh, but the current disparities we see, this and that, it all still comes back to this. Class is still considered in college admissions. Personal adversity is still considered. And even, I will say this, and this is a part of the ruling I don't entirely agree with, but even kind of your personal racial identity, not just the race on your box, but the whole, the woke, oh, well, my racial identity has impacted me this way. They even ruled in this ruling that can still be used as a factor in admissions. So if you write a really, sad essay about how I was black and then there was so much racism against me, you can actually still technically get in on that basis. But all that this says is that the box you check when you apply to school, right, black, white, whatever, that very box on the application, that cannot be used as a factor in admissions. That's all that it says, okay? So even if you want to bring all of these arguments about generational wealth and past racial disparity, blah, 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 CRT, the same tired old arguments, which are not even true, right? The whole generational wealth argument, that's not even true, because generational wealth only lasts 3 generations. And so to say that current disparities are a product of past slavery, that literally doesn't make any sense, and it's not even financially possible. But fine, regardless, even if that is true, what does that have to still do with race? Because according to the system that Ketanji Brown Jackson is trying to defend, a rich Nigerian kid, okay, so if you're a Nigerian immigrant kid who came over and your parents are super wealthy and you've never dealt with American racism or slavery ever in your bloodline, you're not particularly poor, you do well for yourself, right? According to the affirmative action system, you are favored over, let's say, like I said earlier, the poor white kid in Appalachia who lives in a trailer. How is that fair? How does that rectify disparity? How does it do any of it? It doesn't. But what this boils down to is it's not that they want a system that, considers people's personal adversity or considers the fact that so-and-so struggled in life. It's actually the opposite of that. They don't want to consider that. They just want to say, Put more black people and Hispanic people in school for the sake of it. Who cares if they're qualified? Do it and actively discriminate against the white kids and the Asian kids. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. So every single liberal argument, they keep doing the same things about affirmative action. None of them make sense. None of them are coherent. It always has to come back to simply either A, we need a certain amount of diversity quota in schools. Why? I don't know. Just because we do, right? We just need to do it. Who cares about qualification? Just put them in on the basis of their race. So that's either A, the argument for affirmative action, which is that qualification doesn't matter, or the alternative argument always falls apart because, like I said, personal adversity, what you've been through, your identity, all that stuff. You're still allowed to use that in college applications. All it says is the very box there doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, right? Which realistically, why should it matter? It shouldn't. So there's the affirmative action stuff. I'll read super chats here and then we'll move on here in the night's stories. But here really quickly, and I am reading super chats right now, so feel free to send some in if you want to support the show. Sam Nguyen for $10 says, great news for our country. God bless America and hello to all of our patriots. USA, USA, USA. So true. Top American patriot, Sam Nguyen. You know, he'll be going absolutely crazy on the 4th of July. I appreciate it, Sam. Thank you for the $10. God bless you, too. Shane Keena for $5 says, thank Trump for the overturning of abortion and affirmative action. The burger has been flipped here. Democrats are just angry that they are exposed. Hey, it's true. You are not wrong at all. Thank you for the $5. Shane Keena. Potato Head says, what are legacy admissions? Legacy admissions is when it's mainly, it's exaggerated. It's only a thing for very top tier, like Ivy League schools. But it's basically if your parent went to this school, you know, you basically have an easier time, almost guaranteed in many cases, of getting into the school. And it kind of does this whole thing of like the bloodline, the lineage, all of that. And I will say about legacy admissions, you know, I'm not particularly opposed to it. Maybe that's contradictory. Now, if you want to get rid of it, I'm not like going to be up in arms, but I'm not that particularly opposed to it because I feel like if you put in all the work, first of all, to get into an Ivy League school and go through all of that, it's very difficult, right? Why not, if the Ivy League school decides, hey, well, we want to benefit you and keep your family, keep your bloodline running through this school and also keep your money running through this school for many generations, I don't really see a problem with that. I actually think that's kind of like traditional and conservative and just old school in a sense, right? There's something about that I actually don't mind. Now, with that said, if you disagree with me, I perfectly understand the counter arguments, right? It's not meritocratic, all that stuff. I understand all of that. You know, I just like the tradition aspect of it because I don't particularly care, right? And I think it's genuinely probably less destructive than this diversity quota stuff is, right? In many ways, it's actually the opposite. So I don't have an opposition to it particularly, but if they got rid of it tomorrow, I wouldn't really be mad. You know, it is what it is. It technically probably would be more fair for everyone as well. So something to consider. Again, guys, if you do want to support by super chatting the show, feel free to do so. All right, but we will move on here in the night. Let's see. Should we talk about Greta meeting Zelensky first, or should we talk about the Candace Owens drama? Let's talk about Zelensky first. I feel like it's a funnier story, breaks up the pace a little bit. Okay, so all right, as of today Zelensky had a meeting with Greta Thunberg. Okay, so here we have the headline from AP. Ukraine's Zelensky meets Greta Thunberg and others to address the war's effect on ecology. Yeah, so, you know, I was allegedly told that Ukraine is in the middle of this very super serious 1000% important counteroffensive. They're going to take back their whole country. They're going to drive all the Russians out of their territory. Apparently, though, this is the priority of the Zelensky administration. It's a meeting with Greta Thunberg, some 20-year-old girl, to talk about the war's effect on ecology. Because, yes, guys, according to the liberals, it would be such a great thing, obviously, if, you know, Ukraine drove Russia out of all their territory and retook Crimea. But would it really be worthwhile if the tanks were not hybrid? Okay, if the jets were not flying on eco-fuel and vegetable oil? Come on, let's be real, guys. Let's be real, right? Very serious war going on here, obviously, as you can tell. It's a joke. It's very laughable. Glad to see Zelensky has very serious priorities as he takes billions of our dollars. However, I will kind of give him credit for this. You got to give Zelensky credit because he certainly understands who is funding him in this war. I will give him credit for that because I know he's an actor. Genuinely, I wonder what he actually truly believes on the inside. But he knows that the West, and particularly the people in the West who are going to give him money, are a bunch of liberals and neocons to an extent. And so they like the theatrics, they like the wokeness, all this stuff. So here he is, you saw him and he's posing on Vogue magazine. He knows what he's doing there. It's ridiculous. I look at it and I'm revolted by it, but I'm also not the people voting to give him $80 billion, right? He goes on Vogue magazine. Here he is voting with Greta Thunberg. And this is just a big signal to Biden, to the EU, to the West saying, look, keep giving me money. Keep giving me money. And, it's our fault. It's our fault for buying it up because I'm sure you'll see the replies under this from the liberals all saying, yes, I love Zelensky so much. He's such a hero. I mean, yeah, his country's in the middle of a very serious counteroffensive allegedly against Russia. And, if it fails, it could basically win the war for the Russians. But he's talking about ecology. That's the number one issue, right? And I guess it makes sense for the Mother Nature cult. Their biggest concern is not human life in this war, obviously. Because if their biggest concern were human life, they would want peace. They would try to settle a deal for peace. Like a rational, sensible person who enjoys human life probably would. But as you know, they're notoriously anti-peace. The West has actually actively told Zelensky, hey, do not negotiate a deal, right? Very early in the war. Fun fact, very early in the war, Russia wanted to settle a peace treaty. Would save a lot of lives. What are we doing now besides fighting over inches of territory, right? But it was actually Biden in the United States who stepped in and said, don't do that. Keep up fighting. We will keep funding you in the fight. So they don't care about human life, and we know this. They want Ukrainians and Russians to all die over, inches of territory. I'd have to imagine that the liberals enjoy the fact that a bunch of Eastern European white Christians are shooting at each other. It's probably their favorite aspect. But the Mother Nature cult, right? What's more important to them than human life? Ecology. Ecology, the environment, ladies and gentlemen. Which, by the way, if you really want to talk about the environment, then end the war, okay? Then broker a peace treaty. But I don't know. So are we going to see like George Jetson little tanks here? Are we going to have hybrid tanks, the Toyota Prius Abrams tank? The Russians are really scared of that, before they're fighting this AKs, whatever. Okay. They second that the Priuses, the armed Prius, the Prius half-tracks, okay? The Prius half-tracks are going to roll in, Ukrainians on machine guns. As we know, all of the Russian soldiers are going to run, okay? They're going to scream, "Niet!" and run for the hills. We, of course, know this to be true. Yeah, what a joke. But hey, you got to give the guy credit. He certainly knows who is funding him, does he not? He certainly does. But anyways, Liesel Igfried says Asians are crazy at studying. What's that supposed to mean, Liesel Igfried? Are you assuming that simply because I was Asian, I got a 1550 SAT and 4.7 GPA? Because you would be right. It is true. That is indeed true. Okay. All right. On to our final story here of the night, and then we will go on to Super Chat. So if you do want to send something in for the Super Chat portion, feel free to get that in now. But let's move on here to our last story tonight. We haven't talked about the Trump-DeSantis controversy in a hot minute, so let's do that in a second. Why did I say in a hot minute? That was like the most feminine thing I've ever said in my life. In a hot minute. Period. I don't know why I said that. All right, I deeply apologize for whatever I just said. But first, we got a Republican Thinker Super Chat for $5 Canadian. I appreciate it very much, Republican Thinker, who says there was some undercover video of a Blackwater. You mean Black Rock? Blackwater is the town in Red Dead Redemption, okay? A BlackRock employee saying that this war is good for business. True, yeah. Yeah, there's the James O'Keefe. I almost said Project Veritas. I forgot. James O'Keefe video. Yeah, we know that. If you guys have not seen that, there's a BlackRock employee. He says war is good for business. He says, yep, we have both U.S. parties bought out and stuff, and it is a shameful video to say the least. Burgundy Blue for $20. Thank you very much. Big super chat there from Burgundy Blue says, honestly, Vince, a great video, Vince. Thank you. Honestly, affirmative action is quite redundant and ideologically incoherent. Well, that it is incoherent unless you just understand All it is anti-white and anti-Asian discrimination. That's what it's about, but it is true. Aid based on class would be a lot more effective and fair, but affirmative action is an important religious dogma for the cult of liberalism. Yeah, correct. There really is no argument for affirmative action that does not boil down to anti-white and anti-Asian discrimination. That's all that it is. That you cannot make an argument independent of that. Because if you know, like I said, if you want to say the, personal experiences, disparities, all that stuff, we already addressed that. That would be better suited by looking at something like class and your own personal circumstance rather than the race you check off on the application. But of course, we know how this is. All right. Well, we move on here to our final story of the night. So Candace Owens is getting criticized by quite a few figures on conservative Twitter for making this statement today about the DeSantis campaign. Now, you guys know I'm a big Trump guy, but I try to be fair as much as possible. But we're going to read her statement here. And I have to say, love me or hate me, love her or hate her. I don't see how you can say that this assessment on the Trump-DeSantis stuff is inaccurate, okay? So here's what she went out there and said. She said, sorry to say it, but the DeSantis campaign was dead on arrival, and it's time to admit it. Tons of mistakes. Needed to be more upfront about his intention to run. Doesn't come across as honest, and he's boring. You can say it shouldn't matter, but it does. All right, so let's break this down piece by piece. Needed to be more upfront about his intention to run. True. Very true, because I think the whole honeymoon period or the limbo period for the first half of this year, where he swore he wasn't going to run, but it was very obvious he was going to, it just wasn't great, right? What was he supposed to do, Vince? I don't know. I'm just saying, you saw how much his poll numbers tanked, and so the DeSantis people can say, no, but I'm just objectively analyzing the situation. During that period where he was unclear about who was going to run, look at his poll numbers. They slipped. And now he's struggling to recover them, okay? It doesn't come across as honest, and he's boring. You can say it shouldn't matter, but it does. Again, true, right? If you're trying to primary Donald Trump, you need to at least match his level of energy, match his level of charisma. And it is true, right? And some people say it's a strength of DeSantis, but I don't see how he's supposed to overcome Trump either if has this personality, right? Well, basically his wife is more charismatic than he is, That's his problem. And honestly, now that I kind of think about it, I feel like if the anti-Trump crowd truly wanted someone to take down Trump and actually manage to win the Republican primary, I think Glenn Youngkin may have a much better shot of that than DeSantis. But obviously, both people in the race, they just split the votes. Just a thought. You can say it shouldn't matter, but it does. Of course it matters. Charisma and energy do actually matter. They may not matter to you. I care about the policy. But first of all, it does make a difference in elections. You can tell me it doesn't. It absolutely does. Especially with the modern system of elections where we have mass mail-in voting. Democrats have mastered the art of turnout. If you do not have someone who inspires the base, you're just not going to get turnout, right? You need to turn out your base. If DeSantis has this level of energy, is he going to be able to do that? I don't know. It's an open question, but we continue on here. He also needed someone more like Kayleigh McEnany rather than petty Christina Pushaw running comms. I mean, I'm not here to start problems with Christina. I mean, I have no issue with her. But I think that's a fair take there. Okay, and then she goes on to say, the influencers that are still cheerleading for him are those that recently moved to his state and want to reap the benefits for standing firm beside him through his inevitable loss. I'm not knocking the influencer hustle, just calling it as I see it. They know he can't win either. To that, I honestly say, I don't know. I may disagree with that one. I feel like some of these obviously paid DeSantis influencers have deluded themselves to pretty serious degrees. I have to say, I don't honestly know about that, but I understand what she's saying there. Okay, I understand it. And then lastly, she says, also, their weird takeover of the community notes gives people a fact checker vibe. If you don't know what that is, the DeSantis team basically has had a big role currently in the Twitter community notes thing, the fact checking organization on Twitter. They've basically taken it over at this point, which, I mean, it's true, right? It does kind of give a fact checker type of vibe. I don't know if it's the best look, whatever. That's not super important to me, but yeah, she goes on to say, sometimes the notes they add don't actually debunk anything, getting very Snopes-like. And so that's what she says here, okay? Now, I know every time you attack the DeSantis campaign, even if you do it from an analytical perspective, which that's usually what I've been doing because I've been trying to just cover the primary, still the DeSantis crowd gets mad. Still they refuse to listen to anything. La, 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 la. Okay, well, when you lose the primary because you didn't listen to anyone who was criticizing you, we will understand why that happened. But let's kind of break down these arguments, right? I don't see how anyone can disagree with this, because if you want to talk about his energy, you want to talk about just his ability to grab attention. Does anyone really know that he's running for president right now? Let me ask that. Let me frame the question in that way. Do you know that he's running? Do you remember on a daily basis, because of news headlines or things you see him saying or things you hear about him doing? Does anyone truly pay attention currently, right, to the fact that Ron DeSantis is running for president? They just don't. Let's be real, they just don't. I can't tell you what Ron DeSantis did in the past 2 weeks. I'm sure he's been doing plenty of campaign events up in Iowa and New Hampshire and all that. But he does not do or say anything that grabs attention and attracts attention. He's just not doing it. Nothing he has done in this campaign so far has been particularly memorable or eye-catching, besides the fact that he just tried to announce his campaign on Twitter, and as we kind of know, that was a laughably historic failure because it was a mess, right? So it was memorable. I do remember that, but I remember that in a bad way. Other than that, I really can't name you a single thing that has happened in the DeSantis campaign so far because, again, he does not draw any attention to himself. Of course, I know the argument. Vince, that's what we like about DeSantis. We like that he doesn't draw attention to himself. Okay, I mean, I understand that. I understand why people support Ron DeSantis. However, drawing your attention to yourself is the name of the game, guys. Okay? So you guys claim, oh, Trump people don't understand electoral politics and your candidate is not electable. No, you don't understand politics, because if you did, you would know that actually, drawing attention to yourself in many ways is something that is important. It does matter. You do need to draw attention to yourself. And especially when you're in the position of Ron DeSantis. Look at the polls. What is it right now? 57-19. When you are down around 30 points to Donald Trump, okay, like 30 plus points down, you cannot run a campaign of simply ignoring Donald Trump and doing what he's doing, because that's what he's doing right now. Very quiet campaign. Listen, I'm just going to run on my record and that's it. And that's all I'm going to do here. Okay, if you were in Donald Trump's shoes, that might work. You're the front runner, just ignore everyone else. Just say, look, this is me, that's it. But that doesn't work, Ron and Ron people who defend him even when he's campaigning very poorly, objectively. That doesn't work when you're 30 points down. When you're 30 points down, you have to go on offense. You have to swing up to the big orange guy in the front. You have to do something. You have to create some degree of waves. He's not doing any of that. And I don't particularly understand why. Although there's an argument to be made. Maybe he genuinely doesn't have the charisma to even do it. I don't know. Who knows? But this whole idea that he's just going to be able to ignore Trump to victory, how is that supposed to work? Maybe it would have worked in the beginning of this year when it felt like, the Trump campaign had some vulnerabilities. Hey, they might find a soft spot here. It's not. You're 30 points down. Every single poll is showing you losing. The polls in the swing states, the polls nationally, everywhere you're losing. How is this supposed to work, Ron DeSantis? And let me ask that to the Ron DeSantis people who get so mad every time I criticize the guy and criticize the campaign methods. Okay, you tell me, because all I'm doing here is analyzing. That's really all I'm doing. You guys know I support Trump. But I criticize Trump when I disagree with his strategies too. I'm an analyst. I'm a commentator. I'm not a paid influencer for either campaign here, right? So please explain to me how Ron DeSantis, and I mean this in good faith, please give me the answer here, how Ron DeSantis plans to make up a 30-point-something lead by doing what he's doing right now. Because nobody even knows that he's running for president. In fact, I bet you if you went to just rural America in a random place, let's say rural Texas, rural, Michigan, Ohio, something like that, just knocked on random doors, how many people would even be aware right now or actively consciously remember that Ron DeSantis is running for president? Whereas with Trump, part of it's because of the indictment and all this, but I see the headlines, right? I notice he's running for president. Whether it's controversial or not, at least he is grabbing attention. Ron DeSantis is not grabbing any attention. He just thinks he's gonna sneak his way to overcoming a 30-point deficit. The strategy there doesn't make any sense, okay? So I think Candace Owens' breakdown there is completely accurate. It's completely right. And, you had so many people today calling her shill, grifter, sellout. I don't see any of that. I see someone in this tweet right here who a commentator much like myself is breaking down from her. Obviously, we all have an opinion, okay? So I'm not saying it's the objective truth, but we are looking at it in an objective sense, in the sense of we're just trying to see what do we actually think, biases aside. All I see here is a commentator who is giving her honest opinion on how she feels and doing it from an analytical perspective. She is bringing up genuine criticisms of the things that she says. And yet if you scroll down here and look at the comments, it's basically just a bunch of people, but actually it's mostly support in many cases probably, but all the DeSantis influencers are just going out and questioning her honesty, right? They're saying, she's paid off or she's shilling or whatever it is. So, with all the talk of Donald Trump running a cult and, Trump supporters not ever being willing to listen to criticism, I think in many ways, I think it's the opposite of that. Not that there's not a Trump cult. Of course there is, right? You've been on, you know what I'm talking about. But I see very often from the DeSantis crowd, you criticize them at all. Look how defensive they are. You even just come along and say, I'm basically giving you free advice, okay? And I support Trump, and what I'm doing right now is basically giving the DeSantis campaign free advice. If you want to overcome the lead, right, you have to garner attention. You have to go after Trump, right? I'm actually giving you guys free advice. And what do? Candace Owens doing the same thing. What do you guys do? You attack us for it. You ridicule us for it. La, plugged ears. Okay, well, have fun losing the primary. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay? Because it's true, this campaign has been dead on arrival. It's garnering no waves, it's making no attention. And unless either A, Trump makes a serious blunder, or he goes to jail, which is probably what they're hoping for. Let's be real. I think that's what DeSantis people are hoping for at this point. They just want, Trump will get, convicted, and then DeSantis will be in the nominee. Like, is that what I don't know. It seems to be it. But barring some astronomically significant event, there's no chance. She's right, it is dead on arrival. There's no chance, okay? There isn't. And frankly, now you're starting to see a lot of his vulnerabilities get exposed. I don't know what to tell you. I like the governor. He is my governor. I like his policies. I like the stuff that he's done. I particularly like the statewide movement he has started. I think that's very important. I like the precedent he set, right, of conservative states standing up to the federal government, doing their own thing, being big with power, right? Using power effectively for conservative ends. I praise him all the time for that. But objectively speaking, he's been running a very poor presidential campaign. Laughably poor. And if you can't see that, then like I said, have fun losing. Okay, well, with that said, that wraps up our main stories for tonight. We will go on here fully to Super Chats and Q&A for the rest of the night. So we're now open to Q&A and Super Chats. So if you do have questions or comments that you want read and answered on the show, feel free to send them in via the Super Chats here on YouTube or on Streamlabs. Actually, I do prefer that you guys actually use Streamlabs, because YouTube takes 30% of every donation you send. So if you send $10, I get 7 of it. Right, it's very Streamlabs, so there's more revenue that actually goes to me there. But either way, I understand the convenience. Either way is greatly appreciated. So yeah, let's do that. Let's get in now to the Super Chats for tonight. And we already got a few here, ladies and gentlemen. Dollar for $2 says, people who don't care about Riz are autistic for real. Thank you for the $2, dollar for dollar. I mean, you're raising a legitimate point. You are. Charisma does matter, okay? It just does. What do you want me to say? And you know what? This is the other thing I forgot to mention. You know why it matters that our candidate in 2024 is someone high energy like Trump and not sleepy Ron DeSantis like he's currently running his campaign? It's not just about electability, which electability does matter. Because if you want to talk about the modern voting system and how important turnout is, right? Everyone's like, oh, the suburbs, the moderates. That's not really what determines the elections these days. It has a lot more actually to do with, your ability to turn out the base. That's how the COVID voting system works, right? That's what happened to some degree in 2020. It's what happened in 2022. That's what's most important. So if you're going to be a low energy candidate, I don't care how appealing to moderates you are. The Democrat base turnout is just going to destroy you. It is going to utterly annihilate you, okay? And honestly, I thought going into the primary that, well, in the event that DeSantis is the nominee, I think he could still beat Biden. I think we'd be fine in that regard, right? But honestly now, if the campaign goes right as low energy and as just, just not noticed, so non-attention grabbing as it is right now. I don't think he can do that. I mean, I'm serious about that. I know they're going to get very mad at me for this. Okay, I'm sure they're, oh, Vince, how can you say that? No, I'm serious. If Ron DeSantis ran against Biden the way he's doing it right now, he would lose. He would lose. And the reason he would lose, again, is because of that turnout thing, right? Because it's not because electability or like, it's not because Joe Biden is a better candidate. It's because the Democrats have this political machine set up where they already get the ballots. They already get all the stuff in the system, right? They know how to go to their base, even when the base doesn't care. Votes, ballots, get them in, throw them in, early vote, mail in all this stuff. If you as a Republican are not going to high energy come into the system and try to counter that, if you're not going to get high rural turnout, Republican turnout, you don't stand a chance. I don't care if you're the best candidate ever on policy. You don't stand a chance. That's reason number one, my political charisma matters as much as people want to say it doesn't, okay? It actually matters for winning elections. But I would say it's bigger than that. You know why? Because regardless of whether the candidate in 2024 is Trump, DeSantis, Youngkin, freaking Nikki Haley, whoever it is, God forbid, whoever it is, you're not going to rescue the country in 4 years or even 8 years, right? We are kind of down 28-0 right now as a country. It's going to take a long haul to get back, okay? It is not a one possession game. You understand that? And so I think that we do need something of a, quote unquote cult of personality to be leading the movement. We actually do. The reason being is that getting in there and just, oh, but Vince, I don't care about this stuff. He's effective. He's effective. He can be as effective as he wants to be. You're not going to rid the Democrats of Congress or the deep state or the bureaucracy or anything in 4 to 8 years. What you need to start is a long-term movement. You need to be the guy, much like Ronald Reagan was in many ways, although, like I said, I do have criticisms of the Reagan Revolution in some regards, but still, much like Ronald Reagan was, you need to be the guy who inspires future generations of conservatives for decades and decades to come, right? You need to be the reason why a bunch of people get involved in politics, run for office. They run for office wanting to be like you or emulate you or whatever. You need to be like that hero, that leader of a movement. That's my thing with the 2024 nominee. We don't just need a guy to get in there and do some effective policies. Like I said, if it were a one possession game, right? If we were in a situation where, our country's a little bit on the wrong track, but we just need someone to get in and kind of touch things up, polish the edges or whatever, just get it back on track. Sure, fine. Ron DeSantis can get in there and just beep, boop, beep, effective policy, robot. When you are in a situation like this, where what we basically need in many ways is a political revolution, that's what we're trying to start here. And that's what we need to start here, right? We don't have time as a country to do anything else, right? The revolution in a peaceful political sense needs to start now. Ron DeSantis, I hate to say it, I'm sorry guys, he just doesn't have the ability he does not have the charisma to do that. He's not inspiring enough to do that. And again, I know you guys are all going to tell me, that doesn't matter, Vince, that doesn't matter. I don't care about that. Okay, it doesn't matter if you don't care about it. It matters in the greater picture of things. It does. This country actually does need a hero. I don't care how emotional or libtarded you think that is. We need a hero. We need someone who inspires people. Because the patriots, the conservatives, and just the normal people in this country, a lot of us are very demoralized. Do you guys recognize that? We're demoralized. The long term, it doesn't seem like it's going to win. Yes, we actually do need a candidate who comes around and inspires hope. He's the superhero. We actually do need someone like that. And they're very calculated and logical reasons why, right? For all my criticisms of the Reagan Revolution, it is objectively a great thing that he won in 1980 and not George H.W. Bush, right? Because he started something here that will last several generations. Sure, if Bush got elected in 1980, he'd be better than Carter, and the 80s, you'd probably still have a good economy and all that stuff, but he would not inspire a whole future generation of conservatives. And you probably eventually go back to 1960s, 1970s era liberalism, right? Same thing here. So that is why we unironically need a strong man personality. We do. It's not frivolous at all. It's actually very important. All right. Catching up here on Super Chats. Dollar for $2 says, who is winning, Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg? So, I said this the other night, but it depends how much Elon trains, okay? I would say if the cage fight was held tomorrow, I'd give the advantage to Mark Zuckerberg, because Mark Zuckerberg has been training, right? He's actually been in MMA fighting for quite a bit, which all my disagreements with Mark Zuckerberg, I do respect that. Elon, he's big. He has power, you can tell, but he's chubby, right? He's not muscular big. So he needs to get in shape. He needs to lose weight. Now, assuming he does, and assuming he genuinely starts training and does all that stuff, which I hope he does, listen, our side needs to win here. Then it's very interesting, because I feel like Mark Zuckerberg, the skinny little alien, he probably has the speed advantage, but I think Elon has power, right? So I'm going to say that I think early on in the fight, Elon has a better advantage. I think Mark has more stamina. I'm just going to take a wild guess there. Mark probably has more stamina, but Elon has the power. So if you're Elon, you want to, by like round 3, probably knock him out or end the fight, right? Because I think if it goes a distance, Elon's going to get tired. He's a big tank of a guy, and Mark has the advantage. So, I don't know. I need to see more from Elon and to make that full prediction. But I think if it were held tomorrow, sadly, Mark would win because he has more experience. But that can obviously change. But thank you for the $2. Let's get caught up here on more of these super chats. Dirty Mike for $5 says, finally some reasonable criticism about DeSantis. Most of it is so fake and will change 1 second after the primary, but this is reasonable. Thank you for the $5, Dirty Mike. I mean, yeah, it's true. I appreciate it. I mean, I try to be as fair to DeSantis as I possibly can. And, part of it's just because I'm a commentator. Part of it is I genuinely don't hate the guy. I don't, I think that the way he's running his campaign has been poor. I don't know if charisma-wise, personality-wise, he's really fit to lead national office, but, it's the way I see it, right? It's the way I see it. But yeah, thank you for the $5. I appreciate it very much. Dollar for $2 says, but at least DeSantis won't serve me a Bud Light. Well, there you go. Vince, he has no charisma. Oh, yeah? Well, he said the Bud Light joke. I guess if that's your bar. By the way, guys, let's get the stream to 100 likes. And honestly, let's check it on Twitter. Is anyone even watching it? Let me see. Shout out to anyone watching right now on Twitter. We got 3 viewers. Let's go. Let's go. We're balling on Twitter. No, I'm just going to start streaming there for like a backup and just to reach a new audience, right? Because I feel like my Twitter followers probably don't actually watch the YouTube or even subscribe. They know me as... It's very interesting. There's some people, they know me as the Instagram guy. Some people know me as the YouTube guy. Some people know me as the Twitter guy. And I feel like I need to connect them more. You know what I mean? I need to connect the audiences. So that's what we're doing now. We're now streaming on Twitter. I wonder if you can stream to Instagram. Is that a thing? Because I got this restream tool where... Let me see what you can do on it. I don't know. I might have to check it out sometime. I also want to start streaming this on Rumble, but it's not in the restream thing, and it's complicated. So I got to figure that out, too. I got to get that figured out. But yeah, thank you for the $2. I appreciate it. Shout out to our 2 viewers watching us on Twitter. Shout out to you guys. Appreciate it. But all right. Let's move on here. Burgundy Blue for $5 says, Vince, what is your best philosophical argument in favor of social conservatism? Also, sorry for phrasing it like a DNG. Thank you for the $5. And yeah, that was a DNG phrasing, but... All right, best philosophical argument for social conservatism. I would probably say that the tried and true, that which has been proven to work for human societies for most of human history, are a safer bet, probability-wise, than embracing ideas that are completely new and untested, right? If humans have lived a certain way for this long, and I don't, obviously technology changes, but I mean more so the existential, right? The rules we abide by in society, right? Like murdering people, whatever, that has long predated the United States and modern world, right? So stuff like that. The moral code by which human beings historically have viewed things, you understand that? I'd say that's first and foremost. The argument for social conservatism is that which has been tested, that which has been tried and proven to work or not work, right? Some things have not worked, and that's why we get rid of them. But if it's been proven to not work, then we get rid of it. If it's been proven to work, then we use it. That's probably argument number one. Argument number two I would use has to do with human nature, okay? Because the entire central premise of liberalism is, oh, well, we don't need the confines of human nature and tradition anymore. Let's get rid of it. You know, modern technology, all that stuff. We've liberated ourselves from it. To that, I would say, to the evolution people, right? Yes, technology has changed. Yes, you know, we drive cars and we have smartphones and the world in some senses has changed. But fundamentally, human beings are still the same. Fundamentally, human beings are still human beings. So the idea that we no longer need the constraints or the traditions or the moral standards that human beings of the past, our forefathers, built our civilization and our society on, just because, oh, well, we have smartphones now. You know, we have smartphones now, so we don't have to be moral people anymore. It's ridiculous, right? Human beings have not evolved. And so even if technology gets better, we should still stick to tradition and stick to the things that have, again, been tested and proven to work throughout history, right? An orderly and moral society based on a common faith and set of principles and shared heritage and creed and all that stuff, that's been proven to work. What has not been proven to work are experiments in liberalism and leftism, right? So that's probably what I would say. That's my argument for social conservatism. So there you go. All right, small grading guy for $2 says, we don't just need any policy guy. We need Kanye. We need Kanye. You know what I watched the other day? I haven't seen it in so long. We got to watch it sometime on a members block. I watched the, remember when Kanye was at the White House? Remember he went on that crazy rant? It went all over the place. It was like, that conversation transcended galactic space travel. Because it went here, it went to Mars, it went to another galaxy, it went to another universe, and then came back. So yeah, that was something. That was something to say the least. Yeah, Kanye. What are we gonna do with him? It's. But yeah, thank you for the $2 small grading guy. If anyone wants a nostalgia trip to the good old days when the world wasn't, when things were actually good, go back sometime and watch the Kanye West at the White House thing. I watched that the other day. It was hilarious. Okay, and I forgot. I haven't seen that in so long. I forgot. Jim Brown is just sitting there like this, trying to understand what's going on. And it's funny. Trump doesn't even let him cut him off. He just lets him speak for a whole 10 minutes. Just goes off on. I don't even know what he was saying half the time. But yeah, that was something. That was a classic moment in Trump history, to say the least. The Kanye meeting. But anyway, Saint Allen 22 for $5 says, I'm a white guy in undergrad, not rich at all. Well, thank you for the $5. I appreciate you supporting the show still. From upstate New York, trying my best to get into Duke, NYU, or Cornell Law. Wish me luck. Keep it up, man. Well, thank you for the $5. And yeah, we will wish you luck. We will pray for you to get into the law school of your dreams. And hopefully, you know, when I get attacked by the Matrix, by the system, by Brandon, you know, you can be my lawyer. You can be my lawyer. They're going to, Vince Dao, 25 counts of tax fraud, under arrest. Okay? And you're going to need to be my lawyer and be like, actually, IRS, actually, all right, we need this. I do need my future lawyer, so it is real true. But all right, be sure to get the stream to 100 likes. Again, guys, if you guys do want to super chat to support the show, it is greatly appreciated. Let me make sure we didn't miss anything on Streamlabs. Let's see. Is J24 still happening? I don't even know what's going on with him. He stepped out of politics, and then he stepped in to fire everyone, and then he stepped out, and now he's doing Yeezy photo shoots with like naked women blaspheming Christianity. I don't know what's going on. I kind of feel bad for the guy, though. I really do. Because, you know, he obviously is mentally ill, as people know, and you can kind of tell, you know. Like, I do think it's exaggerated to a degree because, you know, of political reasons, but still, the guy is mentally ill. But he's just taken advantage of by so many people, right? Everyone around him is just taking advantage. The people on his political campaign back in November, everyone there was exploiting him. And then now whoever's doing the Yeezy photo shoots, they're exploiting him too. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I actually feel bad for the guy. I think there's a lot of sharks around him, which is why he constantly does this and that. I don't know. Maybe he's back on his meds. I don't know what's going on, right? I don't know what's going on with him. I hope he gets the help he does. I hope he gets the right people around him, though. For real. You know, he is sort of a musical legend. You know, we don't want to see him fall like that. But I think he's been surrounded by exploitative people like most of his life, and the music industry. Obviously, the music industry works for Satan. I think he kind of realized then he was being exploited, and so that's why he sort of had his awakening moment. And then he found new people that also exploited him. And then now whoever's doing this, I also honestly think it's sad. It sucks. And when he's mentally ill, so it's like they're just taking advantage of it. It's kind of screwed up. I feel bad for the guy. I really do. I feel bad for the guy. And you know, I know there's a whole movement because of the meltdown last year to cancel him forever. You can't listen to his music ever again. To which I say, I mean, if you genuinely believe he's mentally ill, as most of the people who hate on him say, then how can you really hold it against him? He's having a bipolar meltdown, and then you're mad at him for it, and you say you ruined his life because he had a bipolar meltdown. You know, I want him to get help. I don't hate the guy at all. I don't have anything against the guy. I genuinely feel bad for him in the position that he's in. I think there's a lot of sharks around him that are taking advantage throughout multiple periods in his life. You know, I think he had old sharks, the music industry. Good, he rejected them, but now he has new sharks around him. I think that's the position that Kanye's in, and it's sad. I feel bad for him, you know. I do. But all right, I just saw on Streamlabs we got a $2 super chat, but I didn't see it on YouTube, so let me just see it on Streamlabs here. Let's see.
Small Graydon Guy donated $2 through super chat. Ye is being exploited by NJF the gay Mexican Fed.
Thank you for the $2 small Graydon guy. Well, not anymore. Because he got fired from the campaign and is now apparently trying to get back into Trump world, which you want to talk about loyalty. I mean, we were kind of here first. But he's not there. He's not with them anymore. So I guess that's a good thing. But the alternative is what? The people doing the Yeezy photo shoots, are they much better? Yeah, it's just, it's all around. I feel bad. I really do. Everyone around him takes advantage of him. And honestly, it's not only him. Most rappers are in that position, you know? But it sucks for him because he can't really process what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, he obviously kind of struggles with that because, you know, the mental illness and all that. So, yeah, it is true. But all right, let's see. Did it send twice here? What's going on? What is this one? Okay.
Small Graydon Guy donated $2 through super chat.
I don't know. It shows up twice on Streamlabs. But oh wait, no. Okay. All right. I don't know. I don't know. Thank you for the $2 or $4, whichever one that was. I don't know why it's not showing up in the YouTube live chat, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. God bless you. But let's take a look here. Yeah, that's totally unfair. It is unfair. All right, so we're gonna end the stream here around 9:20-ish. So we got about 10 minutes left. Last call here for super chats, ladies and gentlemen. Last call here for super chats. Any last stuff you want to send in, feel free to send it in now. And of course, as usual, we will be live tomorrow night for our last show of the week here at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I am thinking of reacting to the John Doyle video where he went, if you guys don't know, my friend John Doyle, he's a conservative content creator. He went to an HBCU and had a change my mind sign that says America is not racist at an HBCU. And it was quite the content. So I'm thinking if tomorrow is a slow news day, which Friday usually is, we'll probably react to that tomorrow. So be sure to join us 8 p.m. Eastern time here on this channel tomorrow. Gonna be some great content. But yeah, last call here for super chats tonight. So let's take a look here. Inversion says, is anyone aware of anti-Christian / anti-religious misconceptions in media? Christianity gets disrespected a lot in media, especially in music videos, TV shows, and movies. Absolutely. And you notice too how it's the only religion it's okay to mock? Could you mock Islam? Could you mock Hinduism? Could you mock Judaism? Could you mock Zoroastrianism? Maybe you can get away with that one, but you know what I mean? No, but you know, Christianity, it's okay to, you know, literally have sex with the devil in music videos on a regular basis. Lil Nas X, right? So it is true. There's obviously an anti-Christian agenda in popular culture, and you know, it'll be impossible to say that there isn't. Of course there is. Real and true. Real and true. You know which black college? I think it was North Carolina A&T, NCAT. I think it was that one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it was that one. It was in North Carolina, which I guess they say is the #1 HBCU in the country. I don't know. Dollar for $2 says, Abbott is gay. I have to be 21 to buy cigars in Texas. So true. So true, dollar for dollar. It's so true. The 20, you know, not to sound, so here's where I've been lately. Okay, I'll be honest with you guys. I wouldn't say I'm becoming more libertarian. I'm not, because that'd be an inaccurate way to put it. I'm not a libertarian. I'm really not. But I'm becoming very increasingly anti-government. Like very, very anti-government. You guys know I'm not really a big fan of the police. If I were to be totally real, I don't trust the police. I honestly have never had a positive interaction with police in my life. If I were to be totally real, right? Only experience is they harass people for no reason or they fail to solve crime, okay? Every time I've actually been a victim of a crime, my household, you know, we got broken into. Police did nothing, as expected. They're useless. But, you know, when it comes to harassing you for no reason, or, you know, telling you, yeah, you can't buy a cigar, bro. They're very effective, right? But here's the fundamental problem with America. We always talk about freedom as conservatives. We tend to hyper-focus on the big picture stuff. First Amendment, Second Amendment, stuff like that. And I get that. But nobody ever really talks about the fact that we really do have this nanny state in America where there are so many rules and regulations on literally everything that just do not need to exist. They just do not need to exist. Whether that's, you know, 21 to buy a gun, buy a cigar, buy alcohol, right? That's just like nanny state nonsense. There's no reason for that. It's just, oh, well, we can't trust people to like do stuff, right? Total nanny state behavior. Speed limit, nanny state behavior, right? I think, what are some other things? The million regulations on everything when it comes to business. Oh, this has to have regulated and this, compliance, that. Are you in compliance with this and that and this? And then everything you do, you can get sued for. You got to do mountains of paperwork to not get sued. That really is the most frustrating part about America, in my opinion. It's not even the big picture infringements on the freedom. It's the small scale stuff. That's the stuff that really pisses you off, right? You go 81 miles per hour. Wee woo, wee woo. I'm a police officer. I don't fight crime. I don't actually solve crimes, but I'm going to pull you over, right? That type of crap, like, pisses me off so much about this country. And honestly, it's probably the thing I hate the most, realistically. That is the thing I hate the most about the country, more than anything else. It's not the fact that there's danger out there. It's the fact that if someone robs me and I shoot them back, I'd probably get arrested for it, right? Like, that's the part of America that really is the least, freedom that there is. It's true. But, it's real. We do have a nanny state in this country. Oh, no, regulation on this, regulation on that. No, you can't. There's no other country in the world besides, I think, Canada that has the 21 age thing. It's 18 everywhere. Some places it's like below that, you know? But you can't. How dare you smoke a cigar dollar for dollar? How dare you? Don't you know you're breaking the law? DNGs. It is. It's nonsense, right? You know what really pisses me off too? You know what's giving me the most trouble? Please explain to me why I can't check into a hotel until I'm 21. That is like... So I can't travel. I can't rent a car. I can't check into a hotel. I can't, forget the fun stuff. I can't rent a car. Why? Like, for what reason? Oh, but you're going to be irresponsible. Nanny state, almost cuss. You know what I mean, right? It's ridiculous. There's too many rules in this country. There's too. You can't do that, bro. You can't do this. You collect rainwater? Let's send. Oh, hey, how dare you collect rainwater? Let's send in the cops who ignore all the crime in the inner city to go arrest you. It's ridiculous. Nothing angers me more about this country than that nonsense, that crap. It's so real. But Burgundy Blue for $5 says Christian misconceptions in media. Jesus was a hippie. That is one. The devil is as powerful as God. That's another. God is evil and unjust. Christian conservatives are authoritarian. Thank you for the $5. Yeah, that is obviously spread on a very regular basis. JD for $2 says, will the SCOTUS ruling be enforced? I think it will be. I think it'll, for the most part, be enforced, but obviously they're going to find ways around it. That is true. We can't deny that. They're going to find their little loopholes around it. I'm sure if you write a very woke essay about, I faced this in my life or that in my life, I'm sure you'll get in. But I do genuinely think that for the most part, it'll level the playing field to a degree, right? I think the Asian kids out there, the white kids, they can get over the kid who just writes the annoying essay, But when you have this quota system that's directly against you, it's a lot harder, right? So it's real. Dollar for $2 says a 14-year-old can rent a plane but not a car. Sad. How does that make any sense? It's just ridiculous. What the heck? What the heck? You can rent a plane but not a car. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, guys. No, Vince, the insurance, you need to... Shut up, dork. It doesn't... No, you can rationalize it any way you want. It doesn't make sense. What am I going to do in a hotel room at 20 that I won't do at 21? Please explain that to me. Please explain that to me. Oh, yeah, because your average 21-year-old is so responsible, right? 20-year-olds, they just drink a bunch of alcohol and smoke weed and have sex. But 21-year-olds, they really got it going on. When the moment people turn 21, they're becoming fathers. They're starting Really? It's freaking ridiculous. Just nonsense, dude. This country very often annoys me. It really does. It really does. When are you going to debate Victor Shi? Well, Victor Shi has to respond to anything. I'll try to send him an email. I'll try to send an email, right? So, don't tread on my Pride Month supporting weed plantations, or if I consider it NAP, I'll have the temporary right to defend my property and cap Vince Dao. I mean, that's a funny comment, but yeah, I mean, it's actually genuinely, though. I know you're joking, but it's the opposite of what I'm saying, right? I prefer a government that enforces important things and actually upholds real laws and not spend so much time, I don't know, handing out MUPs and getting mad at people for, collecting rainwater and just this non-speeding tickets. Hey, bro, you drove 90 on an open road. You're endangering society. Meanwhile, the, delinquent who is going around threatening people on a subway. No, he was just a Michael Jackson performer. This country criminalizes normal people and excuses the criminals, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of pretending like it's a just system. It's not. And we've been over this a million times, but frankly, in my experience, the police very often uphold the corrupt system. So, do I really back the blue? I can't really say that. And of course, everyone gets mad at me and says, oh, no, Vince, you still have to support the police. Why? I'm not saying to go protest or riot or, I'm not freaking BLM here. In fact, I'd say the difference between me and BLM is that BLM most often gets the most mad when cops are doing their job correctly, right? When they're actually going after actual criminals, that's when BLM gets mad. I get mad when police go after normal people for no reason. So I get mad when police and it's not just in blue states, by the way. Let's clarify that. Police in red states in 2020 dragged people out and arrested people for not wearing masks at, for instance, high school football games. When police in Louisiana shut down churches. That's the type of crap that makes me say I don't care much for the blue. Okay, the reason the BLM is the opposite. BLM is, hey, this cop shot a criminal who was armed and shooting at him, doing his job, doing the right thing. Oh, we're gonna protest that. See, we're polar opposites of each other, right? But in many ways, I would argue BLM kind of supports the current policing system as it exists, whereas I'm the one trying to return to a more sensical one. Does that make sense, right? But anyways, just point being, if yeah, you can say they're just following orders. Yeah, I don't go around. Well, I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Okay. When we were in Texas this weekend, I had I wouldn't say I, because it was more my friends. But we had an interaction with, frankly, just straight up a jerk cop. Like, he just had a little man syndrome, unironically, you know, just power hungry, had an ego, just a, you know. just saying. That's in Texas, okay? And I bit my tongue because people are saying me, Vince, he's literally gonna like arrest you if you say that, which in retrospect, I probably should have just said it. I really wanted to say to him, I wouldn't say, you know, how come you're so obsessed with this, but, you know, there's actual people committing crimes right now in Fort Worth, Texas, and you're doing nothing about it. But you have this big ego about, like, harassing teenagers. Just saying. Whatever. Point being, it's not about me. It's not about the, like, I care way more about the church that's getting shut down than the minor inconvenience of a speeding ticket or whatever it is. But regardless, like, can we just say it? The policing system in this country is corrupt. It is corrupt. It goes after normal people. It throws Daniel Penny in jail while letting Jordan Neely go out in the streets. Why am I going to support a system like that? And no, you actually cannot separate the cops from the system. Okay? Because by that same logic, oh, well, you know, the Red Guard in Mao's China, right? You know, they were just following orders. Oh, so that makes them good? So we should, like, stand there and support them? Yeah, I understand the ultimate criminal, the person who we should ultimately be stopping is the politician. Fine, I understand that. I'm not denying that. But if they serve a corrupt and evil system, which they do, then why am I going to wave this flag that says, oh, back the blue, back the blue? You know, you're like, you're going after us the most. You arrest me for defending myself. You fine me for speeding tickets, but you don't fine all the people in the inner city who break laws on a regular basis, much less arrest them. But, you know, I love you guys. We love the police, guys. Don't we all love the police? You enforce anti-First Amendment and anti-Second Amendment laws. You arrest Christians. You shut down churches in red states, not just blue states. Stop coming to me with that argument, because it happens in red states too. But we love the police. No, I don't. I just don't. I don't. And nor do I trust them ever to do anything. And that's what angers me the most about America, in a country where we claim to be so free. If someone broke into my house right now, what would a cop do to rescue me? Jack all? F all? Nothing? But if I shot him in self-defense, if I did my job, I did the cop's job for him, what would he probably do? You're under arrest. Say that firearm was illegal, whatever. No, you shot him in the back. It's nonsense. That's why I don't say what you will. I'm not a fan. I don't back the blue. I don't particularly care for the police as an institution. I don't have personal hatred towards the individual police officers. I don't go around harassing them. Heck, even when I had a bad experience with them, I bit my tongue about what I really wanted to say. But still, I don't care for the blue as an institution. I don't. So long as they enforce the anarcho-tyranny nanny state of the United States, they're not my friend, they're not your friend, and you really shouldn't view them like that, you know? I'll be honest, very often I view cops with suspicion more so than I do of, like, trust. When I see a cop car, I'm actually, like, suspicious. I'm watching them, you know? Because that's just how I feel. That's how I feel. You can get mad, you know? I'm just not really uncomfortable painting with such a broad brush. It's not. Cops, at the end of the day, what are they? They are law enforcement. Okay? They don't protect and serve. That's not what they're meant. They're there to enforce the will of the state. If the state is moral and just, which is what I want, then the cops, fine. If they are not, then they are not on our. If the state is not on your side, then the cops will not be on your side. You understand that? You know? So if you have anarcho-tyranny in the state, who's going to be putting the handcuffs on you? The police. So this is my thing. So when I see NYPD, for instance, putting Daniel Penny in handcuffs, what does it matter that the cops personally think, well, I don't really agree with this. I'm just following my orders. Okay. Good for you. You got to feed your family. Fine. Like I said, there's no personal animosity. But why am I going to support that institution? No. I don't look at them as my friends. I look at NYPD and I'm like, I actually actively distrust them. I do. Because I know they're more likely to put me in cuffs for defending myself against a criminal than the criminal themselves. And that's not a personal, the personal cop. That's the way the police exist as the institution in this country, right? They enforce the same nanny state we've been complaining about, you know? So, I had a family LEO run into gunfire as a detective. I mean, good. I mean, not good, but I mean, yeah, good that he's doing his job. I understand that, you know? But what I'm trying to say is that if criminals run the country, then who do the cops serve, right? Let's be real. Everyone said there's patriotic police officers. That's nonsense. No, not in the sense that, you know, that there's not patriotic police officers, but in the sense that if push comes to shove, in 99.9% of cases, the state says, arrest this guy, he's building ghost guns or whatever it is. Is the cop going to defy the orders and lose their job, or is the cop going to say, okay, let me follow my orders? Yes, there's that 0.1% of patriotic cops who would say, I'm not doing this. And I'd be like, G, top G. We love that cop. But most cops are going to follow that order. So if you understand where we are right now as a country and how little power we have and how much the institutions are against us, how can you be against all the other institutions but support the police? You see how that doesn't make sense? The police are just one of those institutions. Law enforcement in general, police, FBI, all that stuff. It's all one. They're all the institutions. You get that? They all are the same. So if the system is corrupt, then so are the police by proxy. It's just the way it is. It's the way it is. Do most cops personally vote Republican? Sure, I guess. But if they're still doing the bidding of the system, then why are they my friends? They're not my friends. They're not your friends either. They're not. You know? We know this already to be true. They were the first people to drag you out of a high school stadium for not wearing a mask. Remember that video in Ohio? Remember that? We still want to back the blue after that? When they shut down churches in Louisiana, red states too. It's not just a blue state thing, red states too. They are the primary enforcement arm of the tyrants. You guys, can we understand this, right? I'm not anti the existence of police officers. Because in my ideal society, it's pretty orderly, right? We have strong police that enforce the law, but don't harass normal people. So I'm not against police as the existence of cops. Obviously, we need cops. I am against the current blue as an institution as it exists in our country. Because all it does is enforces the nanny state while goes easy on criminals in most cases. It's true. It's true. And honestly, a lot of at least big city police departments are just straight up corrupt. At least where I grew up, LAPD, you can't trust those people to do anything. They're useless. But hey, you conceal carry legally? Let me try to find a reason or find something you're doing wrong and arrest you. It's nonsense. But you know, we got burglarized like 3 times growing up. LAPD didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. Cops are useless, right? If they broke in, obviously I live in Florida now, so it's better. I wouldn't say it's perfect, it's better. But, that's part of, like, my experience growing up. I always, like, if someone breaks in the house and I kill them, they're probably going to arrest me. But they certainly would never come to actually stop. They'll just come after and say you're under arrest. Woo! We back the blue, guys. That's not the cops' fault, it's the policymakers. But that's my point. That's my point. Who do the cops work for? Do they work for you or do they work for the policymakers? See what I'm saying? Right? See what I'm saying? So at what point do you stop excusing it? I know we're supposed to end the stream like 10 minutes ago. I'm going on a rant here. At what point do you stop excusing it? Okay? Because we know the story of every authoritarian regime in history, right? The conservatives say it all the time. Okay, so at what point do you stop excusing the normal people following the orders of the policymakers? At what point? Do they have to be knocking down your door personally for you to finally say, you know what? I see what you're saying, or like, what's the line? Because to me, that line has already been crossed. Okay? That line was crossed when they arrested Daniel Penny. That line was crossed when red state police officers shut down churches and threw people out of football games for not wearing masks and all this nonsense. Okay? I already saw them. I've already seen them abuse their power more than enough times for me to say we've crossed that line as a country. We've crossed that line as a country where, I understand the individual cops may not personally hate me, but if they're following the orders of people who hate me, then you know what? Not flying that thin blue line flag. I kind of see it as cringe, to be totally honest with you. I'm like, okay, so these are the people who are throwing all the conservatives in jail and who hate us and cause all the problems for us, but we still support them. Oh yeah, as you're walking away in handcuffs, as Daniel Penny walks away in handcuffs by NYPD, but we love our police officers. We love the blue. We love the police. It's like slave mentality. You see what I'm saying? It's slave mentality. I will back the blue if they back us. You see, shouldn't it be a two-way street? Why is it only a one-way street? Cops never have our back, but we're supposed to have theirs. We're expected to give them our political support. We love the police unions. Let's throw these huge parades for us. But when push comes to shove, do they back up the ordinary conservative voter, the gun owner who, actually wants to support them? Or do they back up the corrupt policymaker? Who's going to give the order at the end of the day? See what I'm saying? So I don't like this whole conservative relationship of we have this like blind allegiance to law enforcement when law enforcement kind of hates you. I mean, not hate you directly, but by proxy acts for people that hate you. See what I'm saying? It's nonsense. And even, I would say even many old school ways in which the police system is set up are corrupt, right? Speeding tickets, prime example of it. Is anyone to tell me, and that's been around for decades, anyone to tell me, and this is an example of the nanny state thing too, but it's like, okay, so the cops literally sit on the road like that. The only purpose of them doing that, they have to hit a quota to raise money for the county. It's basically a tax on drivers, right? It's a tax. So they sit there and they do it, and they get an ego rush about it too. Not 100%, most of the time they get an ego rush, right? You should see how those state troopers are in South Georgia, okay? They're jerks. They're jerks. Honestly, like, let me just say, I don't really care for them, okay? They notoriously have a reputation for having the biggest egos, and oh wow, I'm pulling over some middle class person and charging them while I don't do anything about criminals. Wow, yeah, I'm such a tough guy, aren't I? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you go home and, just saying, right? But what is that fundamentally? They do that literally to just put a tax on normal, regular people who are not doing anything wrong. You see that? While simultaneously, what do they do with criminals? Oh, let's get rid of cash bail, Who has to pay the price of that? Oh, ordinary people. Oh, too bad. That's my problem with the policing system in this country, And yeah, I know there's good cops, there's nice cops. I will say I think conservatives should also acknowledge a lot of them have a power trip. Like, it's true. It's actually true. I know it sounds like a BLM talking point, but like I said, most cases with that stuff, they're actually doing their job right. But let's acknowledge, yeah, a lot of cops genuinely do have a power trip and they're jerks. And there's more of them than conservatives want to recognize. It's true. It's true. It's the way I feel about it. It's real. So, let's see. Let me see. Oh, no, we got caught up here. Cops don't ticket their friends. When you get pulled over, you have about 90 seconds to make him your best friend. I haven't gotten a ticket in years. Well, I have a radar detector, so I've to this date I've never gotten a ticket. Not that it's bulletproof, but I literally have one. My contempt for police on the highways encouraged me to buy a radar detector. So, haha, screw you. I see you too, jerk. You're driving too fast. Not only a tax, but people will get a bad driving record and it will hurt them when they apply for insurance. True, right? But the Prius driver who's like right lane, who's actually a danger to the road because you're asking to cause a rear ending, whatever, right? Do they get tickets? Never. Literally never. But, the person who's going actually a reasonable speed, oftentimes going the same speed as everyone else, which is the safest. The safest thing is not going the speed limit. It's going the same speed as everyone else. You flow with the traffic, right? What happens there? It's true. What happens there? All right, with that said, enough on this. We will wrap up the stream tonight. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern time, for the next episode of the Vince Dao Show. And until then, be sure to leave a like before you go. Let's get to 100 likes. Oh, what the? See, it's the police. They're cutting. It's Forrest Gump. They're cutting the wires. It's Jover. It's Jover. All right, well, we're about to end anyway. All right, have a good night, everyone. God bless. See you guys later. And okay, what's going on here? Okay, and peace.